Well, and here we go. So, hi everyone. Thanks for coming to my webinar. My name is Ilia. I'm actually a student partner from Russia, but right now I'm studying at Czech Technical University in Prague. And right now I'm gonna talk about Xamarin technology. So let's go through all the agenda. First of all, I'd like to talk what is basically Xamarin, talk about basic approaches, about the all the principles of this technology. Then I'd like to show you some maybe Xamarin 2.0, maybe a little bit improved Xamarin. And I'd like to talk about differences between all of them. And I'd like to have something like surprise. I'd like to spoil you that maybe that's the most frequently asked question that I have ever got when I was talking about Xamarin. And just let's start from the question. What is Xamarin? What is the basic principle of the Xamarin technology? And I'd like to say that the secret of Xamarin is nativeness. Nativeness, I mean at all. Native interface, like when you write your app in C# in Xamarin and compare it with maybe Swift or Java app, you won't see any difference between them, and all the UI controls are really native. The second thing I like to say is the APIs. They are 100% native. And maybe about the speed, I'd like to say that Xamarin has almost native speed. Of course, this is the cross-platform technology. It has some bridges, and I'll talk about it more deeply in this. And I suppose this webinar is really about the differences between the basic approach and Xamarin approach. And maybe that's it about Xamarin. Let's go to the Xamarin Forms. No, I'm kidding. Let's go deeply into Xamarin. First of all, I'd like to maybe come back to the years 2009, 2010, or maybe exactly 2015, where the Lua and all other web-based frameworks were really popular. Maybe I can talk more about the Apache Cordova. Actually, I was starting from these type of mobile apps. They were based on HTML pages, maybe wrapped by CSS styles, and had JavaScript logic. But it has really lots of problems. First problem was limited API access, because, for example, you cannot find the camera API or something like that, and you can't use it without internet access. Most of them. Maybe the newer versions of Apache Cordova avoid this problem. However, some JavaScript-based frameworks had it. It's really slow, just because these frameworks were using the approach of getting the wrapper of the platform-like style. They're not using the native controls of some operating system, either iOS, Android, or Windows Phone. Actually, rest in paradise Windows Phone. I really loved it, but actually, I will be more focused on iOS and Android. And actually, it was really bad user experiences because, as I said, there were really big problems to download some app and use the app without internet access. And let's talk about Xamarin. So what does it do? You have your native interface, like your iOS, like you have the storyboard, or you're using in Android, you have the AXML file, or you have the XAML file from Windows. You make your own interface that can behave with the logic behind in C#. And why I say that the interface is made in C# just because you have your executing files, like the logic files will be in C#. That people who are familiar with basic principles of iOS or Android mobile development, you will be really nicely being here. I guarantee. And actually, what is the best experience that can Xamarin provide you? You can share your code. Just imagine you have a .NET team that knows C# really well. You have several developers for the mobile phone, such as iOS or Android developers, and you need to write your app. And you need to write the behavior, some REST with database. So I have a really big question. Why should I write it 3 times to use it on 3 different platforms? I can just write one C# class or one C#, let's say library or something like that you can use in all of these 3 apps. I find this approach really useful. Actually, Xamarin provides 100% native API just because Xamarin works really properly with both Google and Apple in case of providing the best experience in Xamarin. And it really has really high performance. I'll talk about it later. As we were talking about APIs, I can say that Microsoft provides all the API access to the Xamarin mostly day to day. So if we had on WWDC conference, Apple has announced some iOS 13, let's say, maybe in 1 or even maybe 2 days, it will be 100% available on Xamarin. Just try it. And it has full support of all device family of both iOS and Android. All the iPhones, Apple Watches, something like HomePod. I'm actually not sure about HomePod, but as far as I know, the Apple TV is supported for 100%. And let's talk about the programmer stuff. Maybe it won't be really interesting for non-programmers, but I suppose you need to know how does it work. Actually, the Xamarin iOS has ahead of time compilation just because the Objective-C and Swift code is really hidden. So in the C#, the Microsoft cannot reuse it. So it compiles the C# code into the executable binary that is executed from the iOS machine. As we talk about the Android, it has just-in-time compilation. Maybe some people here could see that the C# and Java are really similar, and the execution of C# into the Java is more or less really simple. And Microsoft have developed this thing like that, and they just recompile the C# code into the Java code. Java code is compiled, they create the APK file, and this APK file is executed from the Android machine. And also, Android supporting ahead of time compilation, but it works slower than just in time. As we were talking about the performance, this is the websites, the researches that were made. Actually, I don't know the year. I suppose they have something like 1 year. They made 1 year ago. And they're talking about the statement that I said on my very first slide, that there is really no difference between the Objective-C iOS app or Xamarin iOS app, actually, and as well as Android. And I'd like to keep your attention on the right, let's say, picture. Actually, this is the benchmark made on the, as far as I know, Galaxy, on one of the Galaxy family, and I suppose Galaxy Note, and it was made 1 year ago. And this is the thing. The thing is that Xamarin, that uses ahead of just-in-time compilation, it uses the C#, it reproduces the real Java code, works even faster than native Java. Actually, maybe this is the thing that I gonna end everything, that I can end, but I won't, of course. And I really can say that the Xamarin performance is really close to native performance. Of course, there are some difficulties with iOS just because it doesn't support just-in-time compilation, but this is the policy of Apple and not the problem of technology availability. And this is the Of course, there are some benchmarks as well. This is about iOS mostly. So as you can see on the top right plot, on top right chart, you can see that the Xamarin has really close to native performance. And that's really nice thing. I really appreciate that Xamarin team made so huge work to reach this result. And let's talk about the package sizes. Some people that were working with Xamarin can have, excuse me, they can see some really interesting fact that hello world application, like the all APK file, has weight something around 15.8 megabytes. Excuse me, that's really a lot. Some games based on Unity has such a package. That's really a lot. The reason is that the linking that is provided by Xamarin by default is linking all the mono Android library, all the framework is linked, all the possibilities of framework are linked. So if you use the not the static linking but dynamic, so it means that you need to link only SDK assemblies. It means that the size of your Android that you are using reduces from 9 megabytes to 467 kilobytes. That's completely other type of value, isn't it? So as the result, you can reduce your package size from 15.8 megabytes up to 2.9. That's really a lot. That's really huge improvement. And this is the Xamarin examples actually in Russia. These companies are more or less really popular. The top left is the football team, one of the biggest football team in Russia. Actually, the low left is the one of the top hockey team in Russia, and there are some coffee shops, some shops, and most of them are shops. And this is the examples of Xamarin classic approach worldwide. The Coca-Cola made their enterprise app for sailing based on Xamarin. Also, it's not included here, but the NASCAR races have also made an app in Xamarin Azure. So really, that's like to say about Xamarin. That's really, I won't say it's really simple technology. You need to know really some basic principles of development in iOS, both iOS or Android, or both iOS and Android basically. And we'll talk about the platform specified code and really see what Xamarin Forms is and what's the difference between Xamarin, and why did I say that Xamarin Forms is something like improvement of Xamarin. So let's see the case. For example, you have the Xamarin app and you have 3 different applications that have shared logic, but they need to use the platform specified features. Let's say I'd like to include Apple Pay in my application, or Google Pay, or like to include them both if I have both Google, the Android or iOS app. Or let's make this simpler example. I want to use the camera or GPS or text-to-speech recognition. And so do I need to write it 3 times? Actually, even in Xamarin, yes, you need to write it 3 times. The reason is just because if you have something like hello world function, it actually needs to call, depending on platform, it should call 3 different methods that are using 3 different libraries that are accessible via 3 different SDKs. As the result, you really need to write it 3 times. So Xamarin team started thinking about this issue and invented Xamarin Forms. And basically before Xamarin Forms, they have invented the shared API. So for example, if I need to use a camera, I just download my Nugget package. I just add it to my projects, to all of them, and afterwards just started using them. And after that, after all that shared APIs, Xamarin have built Xamarin Forms. So if we have the native approach, which uses the shared logic and the native interfaces with C# code behind, Xamarin Forms has mostly the same principle. However, you just have the absolutely the same single design that is really native to all of the forms. Like why is it called forms? Just because you just create one single form based on XAML, and it's really maybe it's not compiling, but it's interpreting into the native user interface in all three projects. Like you have the if we talk about the solution of Xamarin Forms application, it has four solutions there. There's the forms, like the shared one, and of course there are some platform specified features. As I said, for example, you cannot define Apple Pay, for example, in Android. It's ridiculous. Or the vice versa works, for example, with Google Pay. It's ridiculous to define it in iOS project. So this is really understandable. XAML, if you're familiar with Universal Windows Platform, so you can see lots of differences first of all, but actually you can see lots of things in common. There are some dynamic bindings are working as well, and everything like that. Let's go further. The Xamarin Forums is really one of the most progressive parts of Xamarin, just because the last year, maybe this year, was announced the Xamarin Forums 3.0, where we had huge improvements and bug fixes. And we have lots of kinds of pages and layouts. First of all, let's talk about the pages. The pages are here, the content page, like the basic page. The master detail, but this page I prefer to use it in Android more than in iOS. The navigation page, this is if you have more than one page, you definitely should use navigation page. The tabbed page, if you need to tap something on the bottom. And the carousel, if you need to swipe your page to the right or to the left, let's say. For example, you need to make the education page, let's say you need to use your app, you need to have something like education, like intro in your app. And actually I was making my app on my Windows Phone. I had really big troubles to make it really working on Windows Phone using the carousel tab. Actually, people who are familiar with Windows 8 development could really say, yeah, we agree, etc. Let's go to layouts. Of course, if you're familiar, as I will always refer to the Universal Windows Platform or Windows development. So for those who don't know what's that, what's the stack, what's the grid, I'd like to have a small recap. So the stack is that type of layout where you have all elements one after another one. It can be vertical, so they will be like stairs, let's say, or they will be horizontal. You can do both actually, but they are really defined that one goes after another one. The absolute layout, this is I suppose, the most useful kind of layout in Xamarin. The absolute layout just shows you the concrete distance, but it depending on the percentage of the screen, all the pixel stuff. Actually, if you know about the Windows 10 development, the Windows 10 team developed something like adaptive pixel, where the size of pixel depends on size of the screen and the dimensions of the screen. So the thing I'd like to say is that the pixel, as far as I know in Xamarin, size of pixel in Xamarin actually depends on the device itself. And we talk about grid. Great is the most freedom layout, let's say like that. It loves freedom really a lot, just because you can divide it into rows and columns. Just say the percentage, like the orientation as well. You can just make everything you want with the grid. You just set your elements to be, let's say like here and nothing more. However, in stack or absolute relative layouts, it's impossible. And we talk about relative layout. The position of UI control depends or of their predecessors. So the thing I like to say is that if you have some element and you need just to place something else, the position will be counted from the previous one. So the content view, so the last three layouts are about more sharing the content more than placing the controls. The content view is just normal view, just basic view. The scroll view, this is the view which you'd like to scroll your content. So like all your content will be placed, like if we talk about the working space, it will be like more down and you need to scroll to reach it out. And frame, where you have just a single frame. This is the ecosystem near to Xamarin. If you, as I said, if you're really familiar with Windows 10 ecosystem, you will get really familiar with that. You really know some names like DevExpress. And this is the feature that really got maybe 1 or 2 years ago. The case is that you have normal Xamarin application, and you need to place one Xamarin Forms page. Like say you have a XAML page, you need to place it. So the case that you can use it in is that you have your working app. You like made your app for iOS. Let's say I know C# really well, and I really don't need to learn Objective-C to make working iOS app, and it will be mostly native. Like by mostly I mean the only exception is the performance in case of speed. And actually it has all the support. It can be really nice integrated into the native app, and it has all the full support of all the messaging centers and dependency services. So it's really nice to so if you have something like the menu of your page, like you have your app when you have the main page, and you don't need to use something like Apple Pay or just some difficult animations or something like that. You just paste there your Xamarin Forms, the XAML page, without any troubles. And if we talk about the examples, especially in Russia, the Xamarin Forms page, Xamarin Forms applications are the Instamart Online Shop, Explore Moscow app. This is the app for tourists. Actually, I really like everyone to visit Moscow. It's really one of the most beautiful cities I've ever been in. And the InTouch Insurance. Actually, I won't miss a chance to advertise the Moscow city. It's really nice city. There's lots of tourist stuff over there. And let's back to Xamarin, and we'll talk about the Xamarin Live Player. And what is Xamarin Live Player? This is the tool with which you can easily deploy your app to your own machine. So how does it work? You just say, okay, I want to have the Xamarin Live Player. I want to execute my app using this tool. It just shows you the QR code. You need to download the Xamarin Live Player app from the either App Store or Google Play Store. Just scan this QR, and here we go. Just set your telephone to be unblocked, and without any troubles you will reach your app. And actually you can debug with this feature, so it doesn't mean that you just have your single compiled app that you can just press until you got an error. Of course you can debug So the breakpoints are working as well. So it's really nice to see how does this app look on your personal phone. Maybe I had the best experience I have ever had is just first deploy on my real device using this tool. And this is the thing that Microsoft have made to perform the Xamarin features, to convert all the .NET classes, all the .NET libraries into the native ones. And actually, this is the thing how the Windows subsystem and Linux works. So it uses the top right feature to convert all the C# things to the Linux. So you can use it for macOS, Android, iOS, tvOS. You can use it to mostly everything that you can ever reach. And you have all your logic that you can convert easily to these native things. Mostly native, as I said. But I say this mostly not just because I just confusing myself. No, just because I am honest with myself and know that the most native app that you can ever made is made by using native technologies. That's why if you want to make 100% native app, you need to use Xamarin won't solve this problem, but it helps to solve it, or to make a big prototype or some even small prototype. If you need to fastly show something, if you know C#, this is in my opinion, this is the real use case that you can really solve perfectly using Xamarin. And that was the surprise. What's the difference between Xamarin and React Native? And maybe this is the most interesting part of my webinar, personal to myself. Is because everything about Xamarin or Xamarin Forms you could find in documentation of Microsoft, or just reading the book of creating mobile apps with Xamarin. But this thing is really mostly asked question that I've ever talking about Xamarin. And let's go deep into it. I'll talk what's better. I'll maybe answer this question. The spoiler is I won't answer this question really properly. And I'll try to prove it. Actually, let's see the architecture. Actually, I'm so sorry this book is in Russian, but I will show you the pictures and explain everything that is described there in English. So the Xamarin has based on Mono library. Mono library is really old library that can convert the C# into Java or even Objective-C using ahead of time and just in time. That's the thing I was talking about. And Mono is really old, and actually you can find some usages of Mono not even in Xamarin but in .NET Core as well, or in backend development. And Xamarin has your logic, so you can have your full API bindings, and using the bridges of framework, it gets to the native APIs. Actually, it has the binding of libraries, it binds to the native libraries, and they are fastly going to to all the UIs, etc. And the framework libs, as you see, are binded without any bridges. There is only bridge between the framework bridge to reach out all the APIs, all the libs, to be completely honest. So not everything is preloaded in Xamarin. Some tools are to be added. And I mean in time of compilation, everything you can use everything that you can use in Java, you can use in Xamarin. I guarantee it. So back to React Native. React Native is based on RealM engine, and you have your layout and style, and you have your logic based on JavaScript. Then you have really limited API access, and using the JavaScript bridge, you get to the Objective-C or Swift or Java Kotlin, some features, some controls and libraries. And this one big thing goes to the native, depending on operating system. So you see that the React Native uses one JavaScript bridge that costs a lot. However, but in the meantime, Xamarin uses bridge only in case of extra binding of some APIs. And there are actually not lots of them. There's really this really interesting case where we need to bind them, but still. So this is the comparison Xamarin Forms and React Native, but the principle is mostly the same. The only thing that changes is changing the language, because you have 3 projects instead of 1, because we were talking about the native approach, but here we talk about forms. And you can see that the UWP app really works you see it works really nicely, just because the UWP is maybe the older brother of Xamarin Forms, I mean, in UWP. And React Native, you see, it works really the same. It's just copy pasted, nothing more. This is the maybe question of using whether Xamarin or Xamarin Forms. And this is the comparison of Xamarin and React Native. This is the slide that you've been waiting for, I guess. And actually, you need to say that the Xamarin shows the best result, allowing to run the fastest code. So this is the thing. I won't read all this article. You can read it. And you can see, I would like to keep your attention on the table. Just see that React Native doesn't have all the APIs available. They have only limited ones. You have not lots of widgets. You have not lots of native look and feel controls. And you won't have the no support for background code execution in iOS. In Android, yes. In iOS, no. And actually, to be completely honest, I can say that the Skype that you are using, is made 90% of the React and React Native. Actually, that was the biggest surprise that I was talking with the engineers of Skype in Prague, because Prague is the headquarters of Skype, and they said that actually the 90% of all the code is written in JavaScript and made in React or React Native, and others, like other 10%, is the wrapper, just because the Skype was actually first of all made in JavaScript, basically. And the licensing, the biggest trouble with React Native is really licensing. If you have the just MIT license of Xamarin Forms, you can go into the React Native has the BSD license, but you can see that there is some paragraph of the license that says about the property of Facebook or something like that. You can just read it and find out that if you have no lawyer, somehow you could probably potentially get some troubles with getting the app into production. Maybe it might be. I won't say it will be for 100%, but just pay attention to it. So that's all I'd like to say. And right now I'm gonna show you a small demo. Like, I will build an app with you. So I go to the Visual Studio and create my new project. I'm using Mac, so I suppose the Windows principle is mostly the same. I like to create the Xamarin Forms. I prefer it more. And I just call it Hello MSP Webinar. Something like MSP Webinars Sample. I want to both Android and iOS, and I want to use the .NET Standard. What's the difference between the .NET Standard and shared library? The shared library approach is really old, so there could be some problems with linking. Actually, I've experienced several ones, and it was the PCL instead of .NET Standard in previous versions. But right now, as you know, the .NET Standard, after the renewing of the .NET, after inventing the .NET Standard, it's really used everywhere, and I really like it. So I maybe like to have it without without everything. And next. It's not really interesting. And it's creating, I suppose. Here we go. Yeah. Actually, this thing is the feature of Xamarin Forms. When you can preview your app, how will it look? Actually, I need to rebuild. I need to build my project. Actually, to see everything. It's building my project right now. Actually, it's just the hello world written in Xamarin Forms, nothing more. I have only one label, which says the text "Welcome to Xamarin Forms," and it will be in the very center. So it built my app, and I have this "Welcome to Xamarin Forms," and I can preview it both in Android or in iOS. So it's really, it's not a miracle, but it's live, and it's Xamarin. Actually, Xamarin Forms. That's the thing. That's the one of the reasons that I prefer it more than the normal Xamarin. And maybe let's make something more interesting. Maybe I can say I have button. I write the X name. I'll explain what's it about. Go to page 2. The text will be press me. Oh no, let's make something more simple. Just let's make a counter. Text is press me. I want to have it in center as well. Actually, this is a really strange center, to be completely honest. Actually, I can do it a little bit better. I can take this. I can do it for stack layout. Actually, not to have these things. And I just take the X name as well. The X name is the name of this variable from the code. btn click. And I would like to handle the events when I'm clicking my button. And I adding the handle into the code. Here we go. If you don't like the handle name, I just say on count button click. And when I call the rename, it's renamed everywhere. And I'd like to have something like public static int counter equals to 0. I like to say that counter needs to be incremented. And maybe I need to just call x name txt pressed. No, txt count, sorry, my bad. And I say that the txt count.text equals you've clicked counter times. Something like that. Or I can do better. I can say something like that. And let's execute it. Oh, it won't do it in Android. I don't know why actually, but we'll do it in iOS. Oh, we got some mistake. I want to my press me, so unexpected token. What was it talking about? Actually, we will try to rebuild it. It's built. Let's execute it. Actually, I don't know what was going wrong, but adding a one space solving my problem. Well, it happens. Actually, my simulator is starting, and I just stop press me and clicking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like whatever times. Or I can do even better. I can try to call the X binding property. Oh, I can't bind the text. My bad as well. Actually, when you have something like list view, when you'd like to have something like class of your elements, something like you need to have your picture of your element, name, surname, and some other fields. You just can improve your list view to create your own design and see how does it work. But right now we'll talk about the basic principles. I suppose that was the webinar about. And let's make, I suppose you won't make the single page app, you can do something more. And I'd like to show you the thing how you can do more pages than one. And I'll go to the app.xaml file. Actually, sorry for not mentioning these files. I'll explain what's everything standing for. App.xaml is the very first file, is the start point of your application. And as well, this is the place where you can put your embedded resources. What do I mean by that? Let's assume that you are making an app, and you have a dictionary of your strings. Like go to the menu, something like the settings, and you just need to translate everything. And you want to have this app more than just in your native country. So the case I'd like to do is to just create the resources of my application, and just depending on my current region or my settings based on my phone, it just selects the default language from some list of these languages, and you will have everything translated, interpreted in your language or the language of your native clients. So it's really nice feature. This is maybe I've used it only once when I was publishing my big app, but it was, as I said, it was in Windows, but however, actually it was really nice. And we go to app.xaml CS is the more interesting thing. So we can see here the onStart, onSleep, and onResume methods. But actually, this is the thing about the Android, because onStart, this is the very first app that you have when you have your application started. The constructor of app is really nice, and you can see here, for example, let's make another page. I would like to add a new file, and I want show the content page here, like let's say other page. And the thing I like to show you is that XAML is not only an option to make your design. The more recommended thing to make design with is code. Definitely it will be faster than XAML. And just I can hit here just other page, and let's change it. Let's go to XAML CS and change it to other page. So the thing that it does, it just creates an object of this page, and you're working only with objects of this page. Actually, it's possible to be, so you see other page written somewhere there, but this is the question of the new designs of iPhones. Actually, I can have the label with this text, and I go to vertical options, layout options, center, and horizontal options as well. Go to the layout options and say center. Let's see it again. And unfortunately, there is no pre-design synthesis as well. So I have it actually nowhere. Interesting. Oh, maybe I can have the center and expand. Maybe that could fix this issue. Well, we'll see. And yes, it fixed. The reason why it was center and expand is because I haven't made the proper size of my control. This is the question of XAML of designing. This is the question of experience. And let's make it, but maybe if you want to go to another page, you don't need to change something in the class in your code of your application, and you need to recompile your app. It's really strange way to change a page, isn't it? For programmers, yes, definitely, but the more common users are really used to click some buttons or click some UI items. So we can do it like that. So I can see the main page, back to my main page, and just change my method here. But before I do it, I just want to mention the thing why I was talking about navigation page. So I remembering my page, and I said that if you want to have more than just one single page, you need to create the navigation page. So my main page will be the new navigation page based on my object, based on my new page. So I creating a new page navigation that supports navigation based on my main page, and afterwards it won't change nothing actually. And I go to the C# file and say that await navigation. Actually, I can say wait without async function navigation push async to my other page, and of course constructor. And let's try it. And here we go, and I can call it back. So the thing, how does it work, is that you have a stack, or like the basic stack as the data structure of your apps, of your transitions between the pages, and you can actually push async or even pop async if you want, if you would like to. Let's make it in the other page. I need to have a little bit. Okay, so match this new label. Can have the new button as well with some text. Actually, this can be improved just when I'm creating some instance of the class, but this is the predefined code. I'm really so lazy to rewrite it. I need lots of stuff to copy. Actually, come back. I need to have all the vertical options as well as they are written right here. And I'd like to say that actually I can't do that, but I can do something like this. I'll explain later why am I doing like that. I would like to paste it. I paste it a little bit badly. So I erase my new button. Here hit TMP and say that TMP collect. I would like to assign to my, I can create the new method or even use my lambda expression. My lambda expression is await, actually I need await navigation pop async. No, not pop to root, but just pop. And I need to have maybe the async here. No, it won't work. Actually, no, we need to make it in the method. Definitely we need to make it in the method. Is the reason I really don't like the lambdas. So I have the TMP click, I put it right here, paste it, sync, here we go. So the thing I made here, I am assigned to my event of clicking of some button. And if I'd like to, I can just, if I would like to maybe change it or even just reassign, the minus equal notation works as well. So if I have something like that, after this, I won't have method clicked defined, but I won't like to have it. So I have my code right here and I'd like to create the page. So I've pressed me, I make the comeback, and everything works. And actually, to make it more pleasant to see, maybe, just to prove that it's the same app, I can say that the title, I'll explain what the title is. Xamarin Forms basic, no, it will be with the dot, basic sample. Here will be something like other page for fun, let's say. And you will see what's gonna change. So here we go. You see here you have a title of your page as it is in normal applications of your both iOS or even Android. So other page for fun. Oh, I haven't typed it correctly. Nothing bad in it. And I'll show it to you in Android as well, as I promised, to prove that it works on Android as well. It could look more badly, because I really, to make the normal Android designs, I think that's the really big problem in my opinion, but we'll see. Because the buttons really look not as the in iOS. This is the question of reliability and in your own preferences, what you'd like. Actually, let's say I'm bigger fan of Apple. Sorry. I bought my iPhone after I saw that the Windows Phone, Windows 10 Mobile is dead officially. That was maybe the most difficult day in my life, because I spent something around 2 years of developing there. So back to the emulator. What do we have? We have just no, we don't have just nothing. So I can just press me, I can go right here, or even using the comeback, it works. As you see, the design, I'll show it like that. The design is mostly looks pretty the same. All the margins, everything is more or less like that. And the features as well are working. So actually, if you want me something to show you more, I'll just go deeper into the, you know, if I have any questions yet, I'll be really pleasant to answer on them. So I suppose I finished my everything. Oh, actually I forgot one big thing. Let's go to the presentation once again. About the home reading. Of course, definitely. Actually, I have 3 links. First link is about the most frequently asked questions in Xamarin, but they are unfortunately in Russian, but you can, I suppose, translate it. This is the collection of questions. There are like 30 questions, like what is Xamarin? What if I couldn't deploy my sample app that I download from my GitHub? Actually, the users of Windows, you have a homework. Just download Xamarin, install it. First of all, just have a challenge to install it in 6 hours. My first installation of Xamarin was about 8 hours, actually. I was really confused about it. But it's kind of joke. And just try to download some sample file. Some sample Xamarin app from GitHub. And try to deploy it. In, I suppose, 2 cases of 5, you can have some stupid errors. Actually, I had some. There is some algorithm how to fix all the mistakes. In my case, the restoring of the old nugget packages was working. Actually, this is the not really useful thing, but I mean it's not really nice to user experience thing, but actually it works. Then it is the official documentation to the Xamarin, and afterwards I can say that you can download the app using the mobile app backend in Azure. Just because the if you most of your students, you have the Azure for Students offer, which can give you an access to free mobile app with backend. It means that you can use some easy tables based on JavaScript backend, or you can even use the .NET. But this is the more complicated thing, actually, is because you need to push your app. You need to download it, then publish from the Visual Studio. Afterwards, just try to have your app, and then just create an SQL database. Yes, this approach is more convenient, but it's more difficult to have it faster. You will definitely have faster Node.js backend. And actually, I can just open the repository if you'd like. Oh yeah, but I forgot to say that I'm the except of I'm just MSP. I'm the president of MSP Russian community. So if you are from Russia or you are even want to know about MSP, just shoot me an email, shoot me somewhere. I'll try to type my email. If somebody could have some questions, of course, I suppose somebody will share my email, and you can shoot me. You can just shoot me, and we'll talk about the Xamarin and maybe the MSP as well if you are from Russia. It'll be really nice to see some new people in the community, or even there are some real MSPs. Then hello. And actually, let's see the repository, maybe, if you'd like to. I'd like to open this link, guys. Now I will do it really in an old way. I'll just open this GitHub repo and just see the difference between this. So if you can see the sample app, you can see this the simple .NET app, which you can easily publish to you from your Visual Studio, and that's it. So in as far as I noticed, you have the question in the chat. Just we'll just go here. I don't want to hear myself, to be completely honest. Hi, please show some use of load T animation. Actually, to be completely honest, I don't know what the animation you're talking about, but I suppose this question is answered in documentation. Maybe we'll just say the using load T animation Xamarin Forms. Here we go. Oh, actually, I didn't know this library, to be completely honest. But there is a full article in the Xamarin help. So this is maybe maybe the other link I need to share. But this is the real question to this is the very first link to the Google. So actually, I haven't used it, but if you would just like to, if you have some concrete mistake or some error, you don't know what to do, just shoot me an email and we can discuss it. To be completely honest, I have no experience with this library. Sorry. Hi from MC Code. Hi, nice to meet you. And actually, hi everyone. So if it is other questions. So do you have any questions more? So I suppose there are no more questions, and maybe we can, I suppose we can end here. If there are no questions, I'll just type my email. Oh, I need to get in. Are you kidding me? Let's go right here. Let's go here. Have to log in as well. This is my email.